So what I want to talk about is the question, why am I me? Um, why am I not somebody else? Couldn't I have been anyone else in the world? Am I me such that uh, why am I me such that I could say I'm lucky to be me or I'm unlucky to be me, as opposed to me being someone else? I think this question has occurred to most any thinking person at some point. And I think I've come up with some answers as to why the question arises and how to answer it. So that's what I want to share. Um, so the basic idea that this comes from, I mean, you could look at it from the point of view of all the Freaky Friday types scenarios in all the different movies where somebody switches bodies with someone else. That's because it's conceivable that I could wake up tomorrow in someone else's body. This is because it seems arbitrary that I should be me in this body that I have and the person that I have. It could be that I wake up and I'm in someone else's body, or that I am someone else. It seems readily conceivable that I could have been born as someone else and that I could have been someone else. So this is just why the question arises in the first place. Why am I me? Um, so basically, first, here's how to answer the question. Why am I me? It's because it's logically impossible for me to have been any other person than I am. This is because well, one way to look at it is that the words I and me, of course, have different meanings. I is the subject and me is the object. But because they have different meanings, they project into two different locations. They project into two different things as if they were different things. There's the objective me, that is Micah Newman in my case, and there's the I, that's the subjective thing that is now talking and is now thinking and that finds itself to be Micah Newman for some reason or other. And it can seem, so with these two different things in place, there's the me in the objective world, which is the thing that other people see as Micah Newman and that I find myself as. And there's the I that is the subjective, that is the self-conscious thing with the subjective self-awareness that it seems like, from my perspective, from my first-person subjective perspective, could have been any number of people, but that I find, as a matter of course, to be me. So the question is, but then I, the thing that's talking, is also Micah Newman. So the question is, are there two me's or are there really one me? If there is really one me, then the answer is that I am me because it's logically impossible for me to have been someone else. Think about if I were someone else, then if I were John McCain, then that would not be Micah Newman being John McCain. That would be John McCain being John McCain. And if someone else were me, that would not be someone else being me. It would still be Micah Newman being Micah Newman, because nobody can be other than who they in fact actually are objectively. So from that perspective, you can see that it's not possible and it is in fact not actual that anyone is not themselves. It's not the case that for anyone you'd care to name, they are someone other than themselves in their own body. Each person is themselves. And that's because it's logically impossible to be someone else, unless there are two of everyone. So that's the answer to the question. The more peculiar thing is why the question even arises, since it's logically impossible for each person to be other than who they are. I can recognize that it's logically impossible for me to be someone else, but that doesn't change the fact that I can still conceive of being someone else. It seems possible that I could have been someone else. So the interesting and thorny question is, why does this question even arise? So that's something that I think I have an answer to as well. So the basic recipe for there being a conscious being who's capable of answering, who is capable of asking the question to begin with, is somebody who has subjective self-awareness and limited first-person perspective. That's just what we know from our own self-consciousness. That's all that any of us know. And then also, we have a belief in an objective world with other beings in it, and a belief in oneself as a part of the objective world. Both of those things put together are the recipe for somebody being able to ask, why am I me? So there's a tension between those two, and it leads to a projection of oneself as a conscious being as being sort of outside of the objective world. There's a way in which we tend to conceive of objective. The concept of objective means just not me, because we know the objective as that which is not just limited to one's first-person perspective. Yet one knows that one is in the objective world as a constituent of it. So in essence, it ends up looking as if there are two me's, the thing in the objective world and the thing with a first-person perspective that thinks of itself in the objective world. And we tend to think of the objective as being just everything that is not me. But that leads to a tension with the me that I know from my first-person perspective. And of course, this is the same. Of course, this is the case with everyone. So mentally, we have a map of, well, we know ourselves, and we also believe in an objective world. We have a mental map of that which exists for everyone. I know that I don't know what it's like to be anyone else. So I don't own the conscious experiences of anyone else, nor does anyone else own the conscious experiences of me. But you know that there's an objective world that everyone can point to, that's intersubjective, so to speak. So we have this mental map of the objective world with all the things in it. Let's just represent those by circles. Okay, so let's say we made a catalog of everything that we think exists in the objective world. Okay, there's other people, there's other objects, other entities, any of these things all exist in the objective world. And then we also know that we are in the objective world. There's also me. Let's say I'm this. That's me. I'm a thing that's in the objective world. But I also know that well, when you map out the objective world, you can put me in it, but what can't be objectified is my own conscious first-person experience. If you make a map of everything in the objective world, including me, there's still me outside the diagram making the diagram. So there's me there, and there's the me right here who is looking at the diagram. So it looks like there's two me's. There's the I, with the first-person conscious perspective that is looking at the diagram, and there's the me, which is in the diagram. So then it looks just arbitrary that I am me, that person, Micah Newman. So then it looks like, why couldn't I have been this person or this person? Because I'm not in that diagram. I identify myself with that, but it looks as if it's just contingent fact that I happen to be that. Why couldn't I have been that thing? I could have been that person. So it looks as though I could have been any other person, like any other human being at least, that's out there. So subjective awareness is inescapable, and we happen to identify ourselves yet as a thing in the objective world, But we know as objective as just that which everyone has access to. But everyone does not have access to my own first-person perspective. So it looks as if, from when you think of oneself subjectively and then add our idea of the objective world, it looks like it looks like there are two of me, basically. There's the me that's in the objective world, and there's the I that is looking at my map of the objective world. And it looks as if I'm just, it looks as if it's mere contingent fact that I identify myself with one of those things in the objective world. I just happen to be that. Why couldn't I have been this, or that, or the other person that I know? But in actual fact, there is only the one me. So the question, why am I me, only arises because of that clash between the first-person perspective and what we mentally map out as the objective world. It looks like there's the me, and then there's the me that appears in the objective world. But there is only me objectively speaking. So just given those facts, given that recipe for one, subjective self-awareness and limited first-person perspective that nobody else can own, and that other people have that, and that I can't own that. We have that on the one hand, and on the other hand we have belief in an objective world, an identification of oneself as a thing in that objective world. That's what makes for a tension that pushes up these two concepts of me. There's the me in the objective world, and there's the subjective me. And then I look at myself and think, why am I that? I could have been someone else. I could have been Barack Obama. I could have been some child slave in Bangladesh. I could have been the one of the kings of Arabia. Who knows? I could have been anything. So even knowing this, I can't shake the strange feeling of arbitrariness that I am me. I feel like I could have been anyone else. So there's basically no way out of that. Even though you know that there's no logical possibility that you could have been someone other than you could have been, because that's logically impossible. There's no possibility in which you were someone else, because that would still be a case in which that person was that person, and you were you, and I am me, and we are all together. So that's how it comes about. That's how to answer it, and that's how to explain how the question comes about. So, and it's still an irreducible fact about our consciousness, our makeup, as self-conscious, subjectively aware beings, that this question just has to come up. So that's my explanation.